Most people don't lose opportunities because they aren't talented. They lose them because they walk past them. Not because they can't recognize success, but because success rarely looks attractive when it first appears. It often arrives wearing the clothes of inconvenience, discomfort, or responsibility. Imagine walking down a familiar road. In the middle of that road sits a massive stone. You have somewhere important to be. You're already tired. You glance at the obstacle, shake your head, step around it, and continue your journey. Nothing unusual, or so you believe. What if that single decision quietly changed the course of your entire future? What if the greatest rewards in life were never placed at the finish line, but hidden beneath the obstacles most people refuse to touch? Every day, life places stones in our path. A difficult conversation, a delayed dream, a challenging project, a habit that needs to change. Most of us don't attack these obstacles. We explain them. We analyze them. We complain about them. And then we convince ourselves that someone else will eventually solve them. But history remembers a different kind of person. The one who bends down, gets their hands dirty, and moves the stone. Today's story begins in a kingdom where comfort had become more dangerous than hardship. Its people believed they were prosperous, yet, without realizing it, they had begun losing something far more valuable than wealth. And one wise ruler decided to reveal that truth with a single silent lesson. Rehook. But the king's unusual plan would expose something about human nature that still affects every one of us today. And what happened before sunrise would surprise the entire kingdom. The kingdom of Arvan was a place many people dreamed of living in. Its fields were rich, its markets were full, and its roads were safe. For years, the people enjoyed peace and comfort. But from his palace windows, King Adrian noticed a problem that others could not see. The kingdom was slowly losing something important. Not its wealth, not its resources, its sense of responsibility. When a road was damaged, people complained, but waited for someone else to repair it. When a problem appeared, they searched for someone to blame instead of looking for a solution. The king saw that his people had become skilled at pointing out problems, but forgotten how to take action. And he knew something dangerous was happening. A person who always waits for someone else to fix their struggles eventually forgets how powerful they truly are. The king could have called everyone together and given a powerful speech, but speeches disappear. Lessons stay. So he decided to teach his people through an experience they would never forget. Before sunrise, one quiet morning, the king left the palace dressed as an ordinary man. No guards followed him. No one knew who he was. He walked to the busiest road in the kingdom and placed a massive stone directly in the middle of the path. The stone was impossible to ignore. Then, beneath the ground beside it, he buried a small treasure chest. Inside was a reward waiting for the person who was brave enough to do what others refused. After hiding nearby, the king watched silently. He wasn't interested in who would notice the obstacle. Everyone would notice it. The real question was, who would choose to take responsibility? As the morning sun rose, the road slowly filled with people. Merchants, travelers, workers, officials. Each person had a destination. Each person had a reason to keep moving. But none of them knew that this ordinary road was about to reveal an extraordinary truth about human nature. The first travelers saw the same obstacle, but their choices would separate those who only complained from the one person who discovered what was waiting beneath the surface. The first to arrive were a group of wealthy merchants. Their wagons were filled with expensive goods, and they were eager to reach the market before the crowds. The moment they saw the massive stone, they stopped. One merchant frowned. "What a careless mistake," he muttered. "Whoever is responsible for these roads should be ashamed." The others quickly agreed. For a few moments, they criticized the people they believed had failed to do their jobs. Then, without another thought, they guided their wagons around the stone and continued on their way. Not one of them tried to move it. A little later, a company of soldiers marched down the same road. Strong, disciplined, more than capable of clearing the obstacle. Their captain looked at the stone and shook his head. "This should have been taken care of already," he said. The soldiers nodded in agreement. Yet, instead of putting their strength to use, they simply marched around the obstacle and disappeared down the road. Soon after, several government officials and scholars arrived. They examined the stone as if it were a puzzle to be solved with words alone. They debated who was responsible. They discussed what should have been done. Each opinion sounded wiser than the last. But when the conversation ended, the stone remained exactly where it had been. As the hours passed, more people came. Farmers, travelers, craftsmen, young and old. Every person noticed the obstacle. Many complained. Some laughed. Others simply sighed. But they all made the same decision: walk around it. Hidden behind the trees, King Adrian remained silent. He wasn't disappointed because the road was blocked. He was disappointed because so many people believed responsibility always belonged to someone else. The stone hadn't revealed the condition of the road. It had revealed the condition of the people. Just when it seemed everyone would choose the easier path, one final traveler appeared. He wasn't the strongest, the richest, or the smartest. Yet, before the day was over, he would teach the entire kingdom a lesson no one would ever forget. As the sun began to set, the road became quieter. Most travelers had already passed. Most had seen the stone, and most had made the same choice. They walked away. But then a farmer appeared in the distance. His clothes were simple. His hands were rough from years of work. A heavy basket of vegetables rested on his back, and every step showed the exhaustion of a long day. He was not a wealthy merchant. He was not a trained soldier. He was not a respected scholar. He was just an ordinary person trying to make his way home. When he reached the stone, he stopped. For a moment, he simply looked at it. He looked around the empty road. Then he looked at the path ahead. The easier choice was obvious. He could walk around it like everyone else. He could complain that someone should have moved it. He could tell himself it wasn't his responsibility. But instead, he placed his basket on the ground and stepped closer. If everyone waits for someone else, he thought, nothing will ever change. He pushed his hands against the cold surface of the stone. At first, nothing happened. The stone didn't move even slightly. His feet slipped against the dirt. His arms began to ache. Sweat covered his face. But he didn't stop. He pushed again and again. Every attempt took more energy than the last. For a moment, doubt entered his mind. Maybe the stone was too heavy. Maybe he was wasting his time. Maybe everyone else had been right to simply walk away. But then he remembered the people who would pass this road tomorrow. If he could make their journey a little easier, then the effort would be worth it. So he gathered the last bit of strength he had and pushed once more. This time, something changed. The stone moved, slowly, almost impossible to notice at first. But it moved. The farmer pushed harder, giving everything he had, and after one final effort, the massive stone rolled away from the center of the road. The path was clear. The farmer stood there, breathing heavily, unable to believe what he had accomplished. But then, as he picked up his basket, something unusual caught his attention. Where the stone had been resting, the ground looked different. Something was hidden beneath the earth, something that had been waiting there all along. The farmer believed he had only cleared a road for others to pass. He had no idea that beneath the obstacle he moved was a reward that would change his life forever. The farmer slowly stepped closer to the place where the stone had rested. Curiosity replaced his exhaustion. He pushed aside the loose dirt and discovered a small wooden box hidden beneath the ground. For a moment, he wondered who could have left it there. He carefully opened the box. Inside were several gold coins that reflected the fading light of the evening sun. The farmer froze. He had worked his entire life, but he had never seen such a reward. Alongside the coins was a small piece of paper, folded neatly in half. With careful hands, he opened it and read the message written inside. The obstacle in your path is not always there to stop you. Sometimes it is placed there to reveal what you are capable of. The farmer looked back at the stone he had moved. Suddenly, he understood. The stone was never just a problem. It was a test of patience, a test of responsibility, a test of whether someone would choose action over excuses. Hidden behind the trees, King Adrian stepped forward. The farmer was shocked to see the king standing before him. The ruler smiled and explained everything. The stone had been placed there intentionally. The treasure had been hidden beneath it from the beginning. The reward was never meant for the strongest person in the kingdom. It was never meant for the richest. It belonged to the person willing to take the first step. By the next morning, the story had spread throughout Arvand. People talked about the merchants who walked away, the soldiers who refused to help, the scholars who had plenty to say but did nothing, and they talked about the farmer who had no special advantage except one thing. He was willing to act. The people finally understood the lesson the king wanted to teach. Many people see obstacles. Few people see opportunities. The difference is not what appears in front of them. The difference is how they respond. But the king's lesson was not only about a stone on a road. It was about a challenge every person faces in life. And when we look closer, we realize the same test appears in our own journey every single day. Stories like this survive for centuries because they were never just about the people who live them. They're about us. The stone may no longer sit on an old kingdom's road, but obstacles still appear in our lives every day. Sometimes they're obvious. A dream you've been putting off, a difficult conversation you've been avoiding, a skill you've always wanted to learn, a habit you know you need to change. Other times, the obstacle is invisible. It's fear, self-doubt, procrastination, the quiet voice that whispers, maybe tomorrow. Most people wait for the perfect moment to begin. They hope life will become easier. They tell themselves they'll act when they have more time, more money, or more confidence. But that day rarely comes. The people who change their lives aren't the ones with the fewest obstacles. They're the ones who stop waiting. Think about the farmer. He wasn't certain there was a reward beneath the stone. In fact, he expected nothing at all. He moved it because it was the right thing to do. And that's what makes this story so powerful. Action comes before reward, not after. Every meaningful achievement begins with a choice that feels uncomfortable. One phone call, one application, one workout, one page, one conversation. Small actions may seem insignificant in the moment, but over time they become the foundation of extraordinary lives. So ask yourself one honest question. What is the stone you've been walking around? Whatever came to your mind first, that's probably the one you've been avoiding the longest. And maybe, just maybe, the opportunity you've been searching for isn't waiting somewhere else. Maybe it's hidden beneath the very obstacle you've been trying to escape. The greatest lesson of this story isn't that the farmer found gold. It's that every one of us will eventually face a choice between excuses and action. And that choice will determine the road we walk for years to come. The farmer left that road with more than a box of gold. He left with a lesson that no amount of wealth could ever buy. Every obstacle carries two possibilities. It can become the excuse that keeps you where you are, or it can become the challenge that moves you toward the life you want. The choice has always been yours. Life doesn't ask whether an obstacle is fair. It asks how you'll respond to it. You may not control every difficulty that appears in your path, but you always control your next step. That's where real change begins. Not with perfect conditions, not with endless planning, with action. Small, consistent action. Because the future isn't built by the people who wait. It's built by the people who begin. So, think about your own life. What is the one stone you've been walking around? Is it a dream you've delayed? A fear you've allowed to grow? A decision you've been afraid to make? Whatever it is, don't wait for someone else to clear the path. Take the first step today. It doesn't have to be a giant leap. It only has to be the next right step. Years from now, you probably won't remember every obstacle you faced, but you'll always remember the moment you decided to stop walking around it. Maybe that's why this story has been told for generations. Not because of the king, not because of the gold, but because every one of us at some point in life stands in front of our own stone, and in that quiet moment, we decide who we are. If this story gave you something to think about, share it with someone who might need to hear it today. And before you go, leave a comment with one word. Push! Let it be a promise to yourself that this week, instead of walking around your obstacle, you'll take the first step toward moving it, because the obstacle was never there to end your journey. It was there to reveal your strength. Thank you for watching. Until next time, keep moving forward, one stone at a time.